Hi. As part of the SpinFX Easy Suite 2022 R1 release, we've further enhanced the Easy Reporter web reporting solution. So as part of this solution, we've focused on some key areas. So firstly, performance. So we've improved the load time from the reports, and that's achieved by buffering the data inside of SAP. So especially very large reports do not have to transfer all of the data to the front end in order to initially display it. We focus on functionality, so things such as adding the ability to change sort and subtotals during the display of the reports. So this simplifies the use of the reports themselves. And we've also focused in on our future for Easy Reporter web reporting. So we've actually commenced the build of Easy Reporter front-end screens for building and executing reports from a web GUI, a web front-end solution. Okay, so let's jump in and take a further look at each of the new enhancements. Okay, so firstly, the sort criteria. So up until now, the sort criteria was inherited from the report that sits inside of SAP. But now once the report's actually executed, you can actually change the report sort criteria. So if you've got certain data on the report and you're trying to massage that data to actually display certain information, and often it requires sorting as well. So you now have a sort button in the tool itself that will bring up a screen. This screen here shows each of the fields on the report, and you can move them into the sort criteria fields. So each of those fields is shown here. This means the report's sorted by company code, cost center, and gender. You have a ascending or a descending order, and you have subtotals at the sort level. So very similar to what we have inside of the SAP ALV view. So you can change this on the fly. It doesn't mean the report needs to be rerun. It's essentially during the runtime. So something like this field can be easily just dragged and moved into the sort criteria. Okay, so when the report's displayed, it actually has an extra icon on the sort fields that shows whether it's sorted and by ascending or descending order. So the little arrow icon here shows whether it's sorted. You can actually click on that icon and change the sort order for the report itself without necessarily bringing up the sort screen. Okay, second change that we've added into the web reporting is buffering of the data for faster performance. So previously, all data was transferred to the front end browser for initial display. So you can imagine a large company with maybe a few 100,000 or 100,000 employees and multiple records per employee. So it might be wage types per employee. That information had to be transferred to the browser in order to display the report, which often meant, millions of records actually being transferred just to the front end. And often what you would see is just the totals of the reports. So it was actually quite time consuming to transfer that, and it consumed a lot of memory in the front end browser. So now what we do is we actually just transfer the data that you see. And as you drill into it, it reloads that data. So it gives you a very fast initial boost to the display of the reports. So what this means is when you drill into a section, there will be a slight delay when it reloads the data. It's actually very similar to how the SAP solution works as well. And as you scroll through the data, what it does is it actually loads up the first 200 or 300 lines of data. And as you scroll through it, it reloads the further data as it needs it. So it's really storing much less data in the front end. And the aim is really to remove those huge transfer times for the reports. So especially when you're loading reports that have either been pre-run or buffered, means that they almost display instantaneously. So in one of the previous releases, we added column filtering as well. to the report, so you could actually set up filters on each of the reports. And at the time, we actually built that in that you had to turn on the filtering. What we've done is we've set that so that it's now automatically on for all columns. So when you run a report, you will just see you'll be able to set filters on any column. But we have allowed you to disable that if you have the need, and that can be done through the web reporting setup screen. The final change is really a first version, I suppose a proof of concept, of where we're going to move the Easy Reporter front end, the look and feel of the way that Easy Reporter works, moving from the SAP GUI version into a more UI5 look and feel. So this is a very early stage version. I wouldn't say this is ready yet for production. So this will probably be a take us through to the next release before we fully release this. But I wanted to give you a preview of what was coming. So the intent is this is very similar to Easy Reporter menu, similar to the SAP GUI version. We inherit all of the menus automatically from what you have inside of SAP, including variants. You're actually still able to edit and create reports. Now, for the creation and editing of the reports, it uses the web GUI. So it's using the traditional web GUI version, and that's because there's just so many screens to replicate. And there's no need to go and set this up as a separate web reporting menu. So into the next release, we'll expand on what you see here, and I'll give you a demonstration of this. At the moment, we've essentially replicated the Easy Reporter functionality, or much of it. We'll continue to close out any gaps into the next release, but then we'll also be looking at how we merge this in with the existing web GUI, which has the employee self-service and manager self-service. So as I say, this is a very early release version. So let's just take a quick look at this. Okay, so we've got a different splash screen that comes up, and now we've got the report displaying. So firstly, the menus, as you would see, the menus are exactly what you would have inside of Easy Reporter. So if I went into SAP, you will have exactly the same menus here. I can go into any of the pre-delivered reports, and I'll just go into run one of these just to give you a flavour. So the reports execute just like SAP. Essentially, you have your report documentation and your selection screen. You have the same drop-downs that you would have inside of SAP. I can select data. I can execute that report. So that's just running it in the back end, getting all the data. As I mentioned, the buffering will occur. So it's actually, after it's run the entire report, it only returns the data that is needed to be displayed. So if I scrolled across, I'd see the total headcount. That means there's 2,550 employees on this report. And as I drill down into this, you'll see a slight delay. As you saw, that's actually loaded the data from SAP. And so each time I drill into a section, there's a slight delay. It's loading the data. But that means that the report just displays much quicker in the first place. So you will notice also, other than the menus, the look and feel has been, we've removed a lot of those really bold colours. The blues and yellows from the subtotals. So we tried to tone this down to be much more, look a lot more like the SAP version, probably a little bit more web-based. So what we've also done here is any of these reports you have, so any of these menu options, you have this ... This allows you to do a few things. So one is that you can edit this report. So if I saw this report and I said, well, look, I'd really like to change this report, what I can do is I can click the Edit Report button, And what this does is it takes a copy of the report and goes into the standard SAP GUI for HTML editor, so essentially the web GUI, and allows you to modify the reports. So similar screen than what you're used to, but it's all done from the same menu. I can save that report and move back to the menu, just like you normally would. From the same menu, I can go to the menu itself, and I can go up to the top. I'm just thinking about how I create a new report. It is possible to create a report, I just can't remember how exactly I do that at the moment. I'll come back to you on that. So from here, I can essentially, as you saw, run the report itself, edit the report itself. So I've got additionally favourites. So if I had a report in here that I've set as a favourite, I can go straight to my favourites. So this is at the user level, so it allows you to have your own favourite reports. If I had have executed those reports, and I've run a few in previously, I can run them in background, and those background reports are available in the background results. You can see here is that you can set your description of what this actually runs like. So what pay period, what the report name is, and I can load that straight from this screen. As you can probably see, this loaded up very quickly. Now this is partly due to our buffering. So because we're essentially just returning the totals to the report. So this is a payroll report, so there can be quite a lot of information on this. And as you see, as I drill down, it actually loads this. So this demo is actually running on our SAP servers. It's not buffered locally. So this is what the customer would expect to see. I can remove that once I'm finished with it, just by clicking the delete button. Okay, so just a quick preview. So the intent is that this is really the replacement of the existing Easy Reporter menus. Oh, that's right. Because I was clicked on the SpinFX pre-delivered, it didn't come up with the create report. So from here, if I'm in draft reports, and maybe if I'm in my drive, Australia, DSUTA, I can go in and I can go and create a report. So that will just take me into the screen editor so that I can build reports. I can save that in exactly the same way and come back to the menu, and the report will be there. From the same place, I can actually do things such as add menus, delete menu items, rename items. I can see the menu details, and so on. So it's essentially very similar to a lot of the core functionality. Now what's missing is some of those additional bits of functionality, such as the reorder. I think at the report level we can download. Let me just check. No, we haven't done the download yet. So we'll be adding the download and the upload, the reorder. When we run some of these reports, some of the selection screen options are not entirely there. So for example, if I was running a US tax report, I might not have the US tax drop downs yet. So that's essentially what we'll be replicating, so that we can 100% reproduce the existing SAP menus before we fully roll this out. But as I mentioned, this is an early version. It will be available for demos though, so if our consultants want to demo what's coming, if you get questions about the look and feel of the existing web GUI, this is the new look and feel that we're moving towards. I think it's still open for some tweaks. I've already had some feedback about some of the icons. So we'll make this a little bit nicer over time, but yeah, the first version was really just to get a working version. Okay, let me just switch back to my slides. So those are the key changes. As a summary of the actual physical changes, these are the cases that we've worked through. But certainly the web reporting is a very large component of our future direction. because the more existing customers who are using S4HANA or Employee Central Payroll, they're essentially really wanting to run these reports through web versions rather than actually logging into SAP. So that's very much our future direction here. Okay, thank you for your time.